Hello, my friends. Welcome back to ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepard.
And today we're doing a second thoughts video, a second perspective on Heart of the Swarm. Because I did a review already we did a dual cast review for True PC Gaming. But actually a few people had asked, when you play the game, are we going to do another video? Which we reserved for this channel.
Yes, we did. So he played the game, the whole thing first.
Right.
And when I did the dual cast with him, I have since bought the collector's edition. $80 incredibly well spent.
Right.
And have played through the campaign, have done a little bit of multiplayer as well.
This is cool because we could kind of keep each other accountable. Like, you said this game was bad, and it's not.
You said it was bonkers. We're going to talk mainly about the campaign aspect of the game. Because I don't think the multiplayer has changed very much, mainly from my understanding from people who have played it and just reading about it. So we're going to stick primarily to the campaign.
Right.
So how do you want to begin?
Well, what are your initial thoughts on the game?
Initial thoughts are...
What stood out to you?
What stood out to me was it was very entertaining. I went back and played through the Wings of Liberty campaign first because I didn't actually completely finish it the first time around.
Which I have forgiven you for.
You have, and I appreciate that. I got a fair way through it, and we started playing an insane amount of 2v2 and 3v3 games, and I just never went back and finished.
Right.
And there was a point where we kind of stopped playing Wings of Liberty for a while, and I just hadn't gone back. So I wanted to finish it, A, because I just wanted to, and B, because I had this campaign coming, and I knew that it continued about 3 weeks after the Wings of Liberty campaign. So I went back, and I had that context, so I had recently finished that story, and it carried through into this one. So first impressions, without going into too much detail, high level, I very much enjoyed it. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I very much enjoyed it, and I'll get into why, the good and the bad. And you'll see that I have more bad to say about it than good. That's only because
you're human.
It's more easy. It's easier to articulate the specific things that I didn't really like than to articulate the things I really did like. So that's why it may not sound consistent, but I did very much love the game.
I can point out some things. Maybe see if you agree.
No, this is more about me, so you will point out nothing.
I can't say anything.
The only things you can say have to have a question mark at the end and be directed at me.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Go on.
So what did you think of the story element? Because that's kind of what really drives the player through the
story was an entertaining playthrough, but it did not have the same depth. It felt like a Starcraft story, to be sure. It didn't feel quite as engrossing as the Wings of Liberty campaign, nor the books that I have read, which I think I've read 6 or 7 now.
Right.
And so it felt like, certainly did feel like, and Chris Metzen did the writing for this like he did with the Starcraft 2. He's been a mainstay for their story development. But it felt, and what you said in your review was that it had Michael Bay elements to it. It was kind of grand, and it kept building and building to these larger and larger things. I saw a little bit of that, but particularly with regards to the story, it was building towards something, but the way it was going about it, I felt pieces of it were rushed, particularly the Char missions where you had to, well, basically you dealt with Primal Zerg.
Right.
That just felt really forced to me, particularly because of how significant to Kerrigan's development were the things that were happening on Char. But it all felt really packed in.
Right.
Particularly and I say particularly a lot because I'm talking specifically about some of these missions, especially the last one.
Right. It was a weird development where it was just like, I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but it's just like, here's this all-powerful primal spawning pool.
Go.
Oh, you didn't know this was here?
Yeah, you didn't know it was here. You're the leader of the swarm, and no one gave you the history lesson on
where you came
on Char. And even though you spent quite a bit of time on Char,
right?
Yeah.
Well, was it Char? Was
Yes.
it Char where the primal Zerg existed?
Wasn't it?
I thought it was like Zergos. Or
Oh,
something.
Xeris.
Xeris.
It was on Xeris. My mistake. Yes, not
Right.
Char. Xeris, where the Zerg were initially born.
Right. But it is true.
Disaster averted.
It's like
there was someone.
It's like
who's
you're a
in the
leader of a country and didn't know where the country came from.
Exactly. We just saved ourselves from at least 1 or 2 people immediately hearing that.
Yeah.
And typing a strongly worded reply. Yeah, so it was on Xeris.
Dodged a flame bullet.
Yes, we did. Troll it.
Right.
Troll bullet.
A troll. So, what did you think within the story? Which I think I would admit that like the overarching story wasn't necessarily bad.
And
But I think it was
the ending was
details
satisfying.
that kind of was the devil was in the details of the situation.
Definitely.
Because what did you think of like the characters within the story?
Yeah, the Kerrigan, and I'm just going to, in case you didn't play Wings of Liberty campaign, she was somewhat humanized again, and then this is her struggle to kind of, does she want to fully commit back to the Swarm? Is she staying human? She battles with that through most of the campaign.
Which I'm still confused by.
Exactly. It wasn't given the weight that I feel it should have been.
Right.
Her character development was a little disappointing because she still had these feelings for Jim and wanted to save him and everything, but yet she was... Okay, let me just talk about other characters. The characters you interact with as Zerg characters, I felt were very inconsistent, and like you said in your review, it felt like there were Zerg skins slapped onto characters they had just written. It was like, what I said in the TBG review, it was like, I know Egger, and that wasn't Egger. He's wearing an Egger suit.
Right.
And the two I particularly want to talk about are Abathur and Dahaka.
Okay.
Abathur is the evolution master who spins it's almost like the weave of time and fate.
Yeah.
In
the
Wanted.
loom?
The loom of fate. Yes. He twists all the strains and everything. He's given this great deep voice. I thought his voice acting in terms of the voice they picked was great.
Right.
He doesn't use articles. He uses the bare minimum language to communicate the point, which I think is exactly what the Zerg would do.
Right.
They were going to be efficient in everything they do, nothing wasted. So why say more than what is necessary to say?
Right.
However, it did get a little annoying after a while. Just the way he talked about things.
Right.
Contrast that with Dahaka, who uses similes and metaphors. He speaks kind of fluidly with prose. And I thought it immediately stood out to me as they are overwriting this character, for sure, the dialogue. And it brought me out of the kind of zerginess that they were trying to go for. Mm-hmm. And granted, it is very tough. How do you write characters that are individual in a race of aliens that is not individual? I mean, you have the overlords that kind of have their own broods and everything like that, and they have semblances of personality. And if this is totally nerding out, by the way, I hope none of you mind, because we're actually going a deep dive into this.
I think you're among friends in this.
Exactly. It's tough to write for characters that aren't supposed to really have personalities.
Yeah.
And the fact that I don't really want to hammer them for trying, because otherwise it would be a very boring story if you just had these robotic characters who do everything that she says, because then there would be no internal conflict. But the way they went about it, particularly with, I can't remember the name of Isha, I think is her assistant who comes out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
Some of the characters were just written in an annoying way. You kind of just wanted them to go away, and you dreaded having to talk to them after a while.
Right.
It's Isha and then Zagara.
Right.
The brood mother who she's training and wants her to develop vision and tactical considerations. The characters weren't well drawn to me. And this is an example, and we talked about it in the expectations video. I can't tell you what I thought it should have been, but I can tell you I didn't like what it was.
Well,
and I apologize that that's not helpful, but that's just how it is.
The first game was very Zergy, where you had the Cerebrates all talking. And it's like they all kind of shared a different function of personality, almost like GLaDOS in Portal, which made sense to me, that one was just had its strength, and it all wanted, and then I don't know what you were supposed to be as in the game, in the first game. Were you supposed to be another Cerebrate controlling units? I don't even know. But that made sense to me of what's going on in the personality of the Zerg.
Yeah.
Versus this, where it was just, it's like Kerrigan had her motives, and they just used these other characters for her to tell her motives to explain to the characters. So they just kind of
were placeholders and recipients, like they were the audience.
They're the ones that ask questions, and that makes them look stupid.
Yeah,
because you're like, why are you asking questions? You're Isha, the strategist section, and you're like asking all these really obvious questions.
But you're really more just like secretary to the Queen of Blades.
Assistant.
How did you get this job?
Assistant to the Queen of Blades.
Yes. Assistant regional Queen of Blades. I also felt like the actual dialogue itself, they must have used the words power, powerful. So millions of times. It felt like that because they just kept making references to, you are growing in power. I sense the powerfulness of your power. It just felt so overused, and it's bad fantasy writing. Whenever there's kind of a mystical element, particularly magic, there's always this, oh, he's ever more powerful. He's the most powerful. It gets very tired after a while.
Like Dragon Ball Z. And he's got 999 power.
Over 9,000.
Over 9,000 power. What is these power?
It just stood out to me as... And it's not like I wanted them to find synonyms. Like, say the same thing, but just with a different word.
Right.
Just the concept they kept talking about. Kerrigan comes in. She's basically mostly human and is undecided. And they either blindly follow her or they say, I don't know. And then she lights up her eyes and goes, Arr. And they're like, okay, I'll do what you say.
Hey, remember, I'm powerful.
Exactly. And
more powerful than your power.
One note about the voice acting, a lot of it, like I said, Abathur I thought was great. Some of the other ones
I want him to do my voicemail on my phone.
What I was going to say is, and this is not at all, like I'm not saying this actually should be, but imagine if one of the Zerg characters, I mean, yeah, Zerg, had the voice of Stephen Merchant, the guy who did Wheatley from Portal 2. If it was just some kind of weak British voice or...
Right.
I don't know. I just think that would improve the game somewhat.
Right.
If it was Wheatley doing the voice of Dahaka.
I had a really struggle to get past the whole thing of they're not talking in psychic form.
Yeah, they're not... Yeah, I know what you mean.
They could have had the same exact voices. Just don't move your lips.
But that's the thing, though. If in telepathy, do people sound different? Not to get off on a tangent, but particularly with the Protoss. Like, if Jim Raynor's talking to Zeratul...
Right.
And this is just getting even more nerdy. If he's talking to Zeratul and another Protoss from his left says something, does he know without turning and looking? Because turning and looking wouldn't really help you.
All movies that I know of where they use psychic stuff, there seems to be some directional ability to know.
My question is, if you can actually speak with vocal cords and do telepathy, can you change your voice? Put on a really bad Australian accent for your telepathy.
Look,
okay,
I'm not trying to be petty here. I just don't want them to move their lips.
Okay.
All right?
It's not too much. Just don't move your damn lips. I see what you're saying. With regard to other elements of the game...
What did you think of the actual, like, the map specifically? However you got there.
I thought the missions were varied, and I thought they were not challenging. They were varied and they were fun. I really thought that the mission where you fly the Hyperion was great.
That was one of the best missions.
It was. I played it back through a few times because it was really fun. I thought this is what a space flight, sim should be. But I thought, and when you have to get creep to the Scourge Nest to launch them at the battlecruisers, the missions themselves never got tiring. I never thought, this is the same thing I did the last 3 missions.
Right.
It always felt new and different. And so I really enjoyed the missions. And that's one of the primary reasons why you may hear me complain about a lot of things. But overall, I thought the game was great. Playing through it, even though some of them didn't really... Like, you kind of got lost in the mission you were doing, and you didn't really care about the larger story until some of the later ones where you're actually assaulting the core hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the missions I thought were great. The difficulty, however, I was really disappointed in because there was some serious hand-holding. Even the first missions, they told you this is what a hatchery is used for. It felt to me like Wings of Liberty was for people who have played Starcraft.
Right.
And this is how you play Wings of Liberty. Heart of the Swarm felt like this is how you play Starcraft. This is how you play real-time strategy games.
Yeah.
It really felt like that take the difficulty levels from Wings of Liberty, those don't translate to the same levels in Heart of the Swarm. Everything got scaled back at least one.
That's like, the starting from zero phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be a future subject. Because that's exactly how I felt about Portal. Portal, I built a certain set of skills. I want Portal 2 to build on those skills. I don't want to start at zero again and then play up to the same skill level.
You don't want Portal 2 to be as if Portal 1 never existed.
It could have never existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. I mean, what do we build off of? What expectations should we have? Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Reference to our own video.
Excellent. I also thought, one thing I wanted to say before I forgot about it, the evolution testing as you went through the campaign, I thought was great. You got to see different variations of Zerg units that you've always loved, and they're terrifying.
Right.
Zerglings with wings that can jump up and down cliffs.
Right.
Or you can spawn 3 Zerglings almost instantly from a hatchery.
I loved those.
Oh
those
my
were the ones
sweet lord. They were
I love that
terrifying.
in this one that you could switch back and forth. Which doesn't really help you the first time you go through the game because you really don't know what you're going to be playing against.
Yeah.
But when you go through a replay, you could pick exactly
Yeah, you say
the modifications.
for this mission I need my Hydralisk to have more health. Or for this mission I need
Right.
Mutalisk to be able to do this. More single target damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which,
That did help the replayability, I agree.
yeah.
For even if it's just for individual missions, not for the whole campaign.
And I kind of go back and forth on the fact that Wings of Liberty, if you want to go and like specialize in air instead of mech, because there's achievements for doing that.
Yeah.
You have to go play the whole game. Mm-hmm. I kind of like that too because it forces me to play the game again. Where it's like, okay, I'm going to play. It gives it a forced replayability, but maybe that's not a good. I've gone back and forth, like which way's better.
Well, I think that's actually a good thing that both ways can be good. It's not like, well, clearly there's one favorite that I have.
Right.
The fact that both offer you something different, I think is a good thing. It shows good game design to me.
It shows good game design that I don't mind playing the whole game again just to get one achievement.
Certainly. Yeah, that's true. And I've said several times, I love the achievement system for StarCraft games in particular. Not just because of the achievements themselves are fun. Some of them are very challenging. Just the way the achievement pops up on your screen.
Yeah.
It's this embossed little blue banner. And you're like,
Best
yeah, more
noise.
stuff.
There are certain noises in video games that I think you could just put them on a loop and I would just kind of get high off of them. It's that noise. It's the little like change dropping sound you hear when you get a kill in Battlefield 3.
It's the sound the power saw makes in Surgeon Simulator 3D. Which I played this afternoon for
One
the
of the
first
best
time.
games
And,
ever.
oh my lord.
So good.
I do want to mention music.
Okay.
Because music is big for me in games, especially in the last couple of years. You said in your review that Zerg music, we both actually talked about this, whereas the Wings of Liberty music was so perfect and fitting. It was ripped right from Firefly, which is a good thing,
Right.
but it had that Manifest Destiny, Final Frontier, twang, Western thing, which is what you'd expect from the Terrans. The Zerg music you expected to be kind of this mindless droning and just background music.
Right.
I felt, with the collector's edition, I got the soundtrack. It's not a soundtrack I can just listen to in the car. Wings of Liberty, definitely. I listen to it in the car, at the gym, wherever. But this one, there's so much silence in it. And there's so much one instrument being used just as kind of a placeholder for the next piece of the score. The first 2 minutes of the track Heart of the Swarm is pretty much my only favorite part of it. And it feels very industrial. It reminded me a bit of Rammstein, a bit of Tool, particularly the song that A Perfect Circle did, the cover at Counting Bodies Like Sheep. It just has that industrial men banging on anvils, which I think fits the Zerg because they're very mechanical and industrial in terms of how they churn out these units.
Right.
And I just felt the music, I knew what they were going for, but it was underwhelming. And
Yeah.
I've come to really respect the music that Blizzard puts out, and this one, it's not the type of thing I really care to listen to. I'd rather listen to other music during the campaign,
Right.
frankly.
Yeah, it was better than the original Zerg music that it came with in Wings of Liberty,
Yeah.
but not as good as the best Terran music.
Because Zerg music should be kind of dark and scary and terrifying, and there are so many ways to do that.
Right.
And I just don't think they did that. There was so much quiet.
Yeah.
And I appreciate in classical music, kind of like in playing drums, you have to know when to play and when not to play. But it just felt like every time they weren't playing, I thought, you need to have something here.
Right.
Anyway.
I thought the Zerg music in the first game was pretty good. Though I think it was a little different style. But
All I have to say is I cannot wait for the Protoss expansion.
the conclusion.
Yeah, I think it's Legacy of the Void. I cannot wait for it.
So if that comes out like next
2
year,
years.
2 years from now?
Yeah, it was 2 years since Wings of Liberty.
Okay, so 2015? Mm-hmm. So in 2015, we get the last game.
Mm-hmm.
Then that means in 2025, we'll get StarCraft.
Craft 3.
Yeah.
I'll buy it. I'll buy the collection edition.
For a long wait.
What that means is we have things to look forward to in life.
That's right.
Thank God for Blizzard.
Right. We'll just wait till it was like be StarCraft like 6 or 7 when you're not going to make it to the next one.
Yeah. But I have to tell my grandchildren, you need to play this. Because
I'll be dead.
I'll be dead.
Do you have any final thoughts on...
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. And if by now you've watched his review, my review, and you still have questions...
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Because we were thinking about doing some laddering.
Yes.
Should we post that?
I know my answer, but I want to know what they think, honestly. And this is one of those moments, folks. We're looking you in the eye virtually.
And I'm being completely open in this moment, where my biggest reservation is we're not that good at Starcraft.
No. You are good at Starcraft. I'm not very good.
But I'm on track.
Therefore, collectively, we are not terribly good.
But either way, it's nerve-wracking enough sometimes to play StarCraft.
If you'd like to see barely better than average StarCraft, let us know. We're going to be doing some 2v2, and we will record our games.
Right.
And we want to know if you all would like us to record them as they are, or if you'd like us to just post the footage and then we do some commentary over it, where we kind of analyze what we did wrong, etc. Explain why we lost inside of 3 minutes. Let us know what you think, if that's something
why
you'd
we
like
lost
us
to
do.
a cannon rush. Son of a...
A Zerg cannon rush?
No.
No.
Prototype.
A Zerg spore crawler rush.
Oh my god. A planetary rush where they just land the...
Yes.
Anyway,
so that was my side of the Heart of the Swarm review. If you have any questions, please let me know, but I felt like between the two reviews, True PC Gaming and this one, we were pretty thorough.
Right. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepard. This is the PC Elitist signing out.